Hey, good morning. I'm just checking my phone and the news to make sure that nobody's, we haven't blown anything up yet, which is the good news. And I don't think we will, but just saying, there were a lot of people panicking overnight, worrying that the Iranians were going to do something stupider. They've done some pretty stupid stuff, so I think it's going to continue in that way. But good morning to all of you. And someone else who has not blown things up this morning, at least as far as I know, is Chris Cordani. Chris, have you blown anything up this morning?
No, I didn't bring the fireworks in today, so not yet.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I said, no, I didn't bring the fireworks today, but not yet. There we go. Oh, boy. Well, that kind of thing happens.
Maybe they blew his microphone up.
Oh, boy. That's not a good thing.
Uh-oh. I smell Iranian shenanigans here. I'll bet you the Iranians hacked his microphone.
I'm not sure about that. I'm pretty sure now if the Patriots.
Yeah, still not hearing you, Chris.
Well, how about you guys hearing me?
Full disclosure, I could hear Chris before, so I don't know what's going on. I hope I'm not the issue, because I can't see everything that's going on, because I'm not the guy running the board. Chris runs the board, so if Chris gets screwed up,
that could
we
be
get
a problem.
screwed up. So
yes, that could be a problem. Yes.
Hold on,
okay, now I understand that they can hear me.
Let's see where I'm at.
Yes. Okay. Let's see.
There it is.
Okay. How about that? Does that work a little better? I guess
so. Hold on. We're trying to figure this all out.
Okay. Yeah, we are working on this. Maybe this little headphone thing. That is weird that they were able to hear you before. Oh, you were able to hear me. And that's how these things work sometimes. Oh, boy. Anyway, as the Patriots hear me, we got a lot to talk about today. And Tony's working on his hearing right now.
I can't hear you.
His side right now. Let's try this. Maybe you want to reboot and come back in. Try that.
So if I can't hear you, I can't talk to you. So that's the issue.
Okay. Yes, that is a problem. Might want to fix that headphone thing, I suppose, or something's going down. Let's see what I have on this end. Yeah, I suppose. We'll try to figure this one out. Right. Let's see. We have some technical difficulties at this point. We're gonna figure that one out. So we will
Chris,
figure all this out. Yes. Okay. So we're having a little problem hearing each other. So what am I?
Okay, I'm hearing you now. Something's going on.
Okay, that's good. Okay. I don't know what happened there. Maybe
we were just talking, and I don't know what happened. So yeah, I don't know what's going on. So hold on.
It could be some kind of interference. Not only is there election interference going on, I guess, over the years, there's, as far as China is concerned, maybe there's some microphone or headphone interference.
Yeah, maybe.
There we go.
So it was working before. Just saying. I don't know what the hell happened.
I don't know. Somebody's trying to hack us. There we go. How about
that? Well, it's the Iranians. It was the Iranians. I'm sure.
Well, maybe it was. And I'm sure they're scaring a lot of people. The funny thing is, a lot of people are getting a little over panicked about certain things going on here, especially on this side. Even though we brought out something, discussed as the big gun, the Air Force E-48 Doomsday Plan. First, you're the military guy here. Tell us what it is. You're the intelligence guy. So tell us about the plane. And of course, it might just be a little bit of Trump theatrics or maybe a little persuasive tactic from Donald Trump here.
Yeah, so I've been through this with a lot of people over the last 24 hours. I've had some people who you would recognize by their name, all calling me concerned last night, asking me if the end of the world was coming. And the answer was, well, only if you drink red, white, and blue beer followed with Stoli, because that doesn't work, right? That's a conflict, right, Chris? Stoli, exactly. Red, white, that's the end of the world. So no, don't do that. But other than that, we're fine. And I think that's what's going on. I think that the Doomsday Plane, there's a great movie where this thing is actually seen on the screen. It's called By Dawn's Early Light with Booth Powers and Gavin. My goodness, played Kolchak, Darren McGavin. Darren McGavin plays the president, and not a good one either. Just saying. And Martin Landau's in it, the great Martin Landau. Anyway, I highly recommend it anyway. And James Earl Jones is the guy in charge of the E8, and he's on this thing after a nuclear strike. So and Rebecca De Mornay, Booth Power, Martin Landau, and they basically show the use. So basically, this thing is the doomsday airplane. This thing goes up. Inside of that thing, you've got essentially hundreds of people who are all focused on command and control communications. They're basically in there, to coordinate our military after a strike, after we get hit by a nuclear war blast. So that's hold on, I'm having a problem with my microphone. Hold on.
That's okay. That happens here too. It's what's going on is Donald Trump is probably again, there's a little bit of theatrics here. You have to kind of convince not only Iran but our own people that you might be going to war. Now the funny thing is, Tony, as this moves forward, the liberal Democrat, the liberal left, the media is trying to pounce on a lot of this by
Of course.
by narrating or setting up a narrative that there's a big rift between the Trump base as far as going to war in Israel or with Israel or sorry, with Iran and over Israel is concerned. This is just basically the left side taking advantage and trying to find a way because they're in disarray to portray the Republicans as in disarray. Problem is, we all knew, Tony, that MAGA, or as they would call it, the Trump faction or the Trump voters, they're a larger tent than just a bunch of people in lockstep marching and chanting like on like at the No Kings marches, if you will.
Well, let's talk about that just for 1 second. So first off, let me be clear as I can be without giving away anything or saying anything that's going to get you or me in trouble, especially me. I believe at this point, to be credible in the eyes of your adversary, they have to believe you're going to cross the line and come after them. They got to believe that. And a little story to give context. During the Cold War, which I was a member of, on our side, by the way, not the other side, not like some people I know who played for the other side. Just saying. There was a time, and I think it was, maybe you can check this, 83, 84 maybe. The Russians were really worried, and they thought that President Reagan, was a cowboy. Well, instead of fighting that image, it's like, oh, I'm going to use that. Sound familiar? Everybody thinks Donald Trump's a little bit crazy. Well, maybe he is. And so the Russians were really worried that Reagan might do something to go after them. And I know you've heard this story before, but I don't know if all the Patriots have. So anyway, in the Russian thinking, they really didn't know what Reagan would do or not do. And so one event happened that sealed the deal, that basically solidified the Russian perception of Ronald Reagan as a serious man who would do serious things and accept consequences. You know what that thing was, Chris? I don't know if you remember or not.
I'm trying to remember.
So it was when he fired the air traffic controllers.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah, it's like Reagan went against all of his advisors. He didn't play nice. Does this sound familiar?
Yes. Donald
went against all of his advisors, didn't play nice, and fired the air traffic controllers who were on strike.
And this, my friends, is the 4D chess that we discuss when it comes to Donald Trump versus his enemies.
So the Russians were freaked out. The Soviets were freaked out because, oh my God, he's willing to do serious things and take serious risk. He's not messing around. So that one event, historians later figured this out, and the Russians admitted it later. It's like, yeah, that freaked us out. That guy meant business. So does it sound like Donald Trump's been doing that kind of domestically, like not screwing around? So I think the the idea here is that whoever you're playing chess against, they have to believe you're going to go all the way. There's a song about that, right? In the 80s, Let's Go All the Way. That's a great song too.
Sly Fox.
Sly Fox.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got a lot of airplay on the urban stations. Yes. It was a big song. That's a one-hit wonder right there.
Yeah. A good song though. Good song. And emblematic of the era it was written and played in. So
it was Bill Clinton's campaign song for 1992.
That's right. And but unfortunately, he's never gone all the way with Hillary. But that's a different story. Webb Hubble has though.
Oh, hey-o. That's a good one. But the idea is we have to make sure our enemies believe we're going to do something, and
maybe we will. Maybe we will.
And other nations are the same way. You're probably thinking the same about Xi Jinping or Xi Jinping right now. Vladimir Putin is the same way. You have to think they're going to do something.
Yeah. So I want everybody to understand, and my word to the Patriots: stop freaking out. I've seen Tucker Carlson freak out. I've seen Bannon freak out. Steve Bannon, my friend Jack Prosopic, they're all freaking out. It's like, just chill. Just take a chill pill. Nobody has been attacked yet. If it happens, it happens. And by the way, I was on with my friend Rob Fenderty last night talking about this on Newsmax. It's like, look, I don't know if Trump's going to strike or not, because that was the topic. Everybody was thinking something was going to happen overnight. And believe it or not, you can ask one of our friends about this too. I don't want to say her name on air. One of our mutual friends, like, she called me and it's like, no, it's going to be fine. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Anyway, people were freaking out. It's like, no, just chill. We're not there yet, because everybody, Trump flew back. Trump did this. Trump did that. It's like, he didn't push the button. So just chill. So that's my advice to the Patriots. Just chill.
And think about think about what a Kamala Harris administration would be doing at this time.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah. See, that's something we have to really think about. These marchers over the weekend are so upset because they hate the Orange Man so much. They were going to install somebody as incompetent to handle these situations as Kamala Harris. Her advisors wouldn't be much better either, because there'd probably be the same woke kids that were and of course deep staters that were advising Joe Biden when he was half asleep. They were playing Weekend at Biden's.
Weekend at Biden's, and then I still wonder if Kamala and the brain trust there, Hunter Biden, had a thing going on. I just think Doug. Is it, what's Doug? Her husband's
Emhoff.
name. Why do they have different
Emhoff.
names, by the way?
Yeah, Doug Emhoff.
Chris, why do they have different names? Why is that? I thought they were married. Why is it you got Kamala Harris, but you got Doug Emhoff?
Does Kamala Emhoff sound good? Seriously?
That's a good point.
Yeah, nobody to let Kamala Emhoff.
Emhoff.
Yes.
It sounds like a disease you would get when you go to Germany and get on the Rhine River and get exposed to algae. That's what it sounds like. Hey, you caught Kamala Emhoff. You got a bad case of Kamala Emhoff.
There's no such thing as a good case of that, though.
No, not at all. Not at all. So anyway, I know we're starting off the show with the E8, and go check out the movie. It's a good movie. By Dawn's Early Light. It talks about the worst case scenario. Well acted, well orchestrated. I think it was an HBO movie back when HBO was making good movies.
And it was not a tearjerker.
No,
it wasn't. The biggest tearjerker happened on the Senate floor recently. Whereas,
oh my goodness!
Yes, it was a movie. It was a movie called "I Love Alex," and Senator Alex Padilla went on the Senate floor to cry crocodile tears over his staged arrest. His staged tantrum, where he knew he was going to be pulled out of there some way and arrested.
I was forced.
So yeah, let's play a little of this, because I have some very deeply held beliefs on this.
Okay, let's do it. Here's I Love Alex.
I was forced to the ground.
He was forced to the ground.
First on my knees,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and then flat on my chest.
Does he sound like he's whining?
He sounds like he's trying so hard to produce tears and cry, to energize the far left base, because that's what they do. They're emotional. He's tugging at the heartstrings. I'm sure most of the Republican senators and some of the Democrats are probably snickering at this point.
Yeah.
And as I was handcuffed
He was handcuffed. That's probably not the first time, but anyway.
Oh my God.
and marched down a hallway, repeatedly asking, why am I
Repeatedly.
being detained? Not once did they tell me why.
Not once.
I
Not
pray
once.
you never have a moment like this.
All right. He wanted this moment so he can do this.
Of course.
Right. He's
Of
like
course.
he's like a slightly less famous Brad Lander.
Well, he's a slightly less gay Cory Booker. Spartacus. Did I say that? Oh, my God. I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. Good morning, Ed. I'm sure Ed's going to fire me over that one.
That's
So,
not going to be good.
Anyway, so let's break this down a little bit. Now, Chris, you've been around Capitol Hill at all, a little bit or not?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so a little bit. So I know, the Patriots must know, those guys don't travel anywhere without staff. Never.
Never.
Not once, ever. Once you get to be a senator, a U.S. senator, you always have 3 or 4 people always hovering around you. It's constant. And Chris, do you know what that staff's job is to do? To coordinate.
And yeah, to
Go
coordinate,
ahead of
make, to handle,
Things done.
well, to make sure the
people don't
scenario
know
is
it.
perfect.
That's right. They go forward. They get out there. They open the door. They got coffee for you. They got the car lined up. That's what happens. So we have to have, what's the thing that Hillary, detachment from reality, suspension of, we have to have a suspension of disbelief that this guy, this senator, just wandered in from the street without his badge. He forgot his staff. Chris,
Yeah,
have you
sure.
forgotten your staff? Oh my God. We got to go back. I forgot my staff.
This
is fiction.
This is
This
it's not
is bad acting.
it's not just fiction. This is a very he's not a very well-known senator. He's probably slightly well-known in Latino circles, Latino political circles, but mainly he's famous in Texas, and that's it, which is fine.
Yeah, they probably know him in bathhouses in LA, or in San Francisco, but that's
Fair enough. But this is another
never mind about that.
This is another instance where this whole immigration issue and all these protests and all these ICE arrests, the detaining and and obviously the deporting, is being used by Democrats in a party with no leader and no set front runner for 2028 for them to position themselves to try to catch some steam to run for president for the 2028 election. Nobody knows this.
He's trying to catch something. That's for sure. He's trying to catch something. Well, I'll give him that.
It's like that Van Hollen, whatever his name is, trying to make a name for himself before.
Yeah, the Maryland man, handler,
Yep.
Margaritaville man.
That's right.
So,
and the Brillo head guy up in Detroit, who didn't even know the names of the neighborhoods in his district.
Oh yeah, Dr. Mingley.
Yeah.
I get
The
killed
dog,
beagles.
the dog
Killed
murderer.
beagles.
That's right.
Yeah, the dog murderer.
Right. These people they're trying to make names for themselves in a party that's in disarray, and they're embarrassing themselves. But I have a feeling that their base might like it.
No, I think a small percentage of their base, but I think Democrats are getting fed up with this. I think I'm a politician down here. I'm an elected official. I talk to Democrats. I think there's a lot of people who are really upset in their party with the shenanigans. I don't think, just by what we just talked about, Chris, and the Patriots can chime in on this, that Padilla walked into that ICE office with the sole purpose of provocation. That's all he did. He went in there for. He didn't have his badge on. I've been at events where I make my presence known. I'm a public figure. And then I will walk in Even if I'm by myself, I'll let someone in authority know, it's like, hey, I'm here. I'm going to be in the back of the room if anything comes up and you need me. That's it. I've been at events where I'm a official figure, but I don't want to be recognized. I'm just there to listen. That's what you do as an official. You don't get in the crowd and try to charge someone, right, Chris? You don't get in the crowd and come charging up to someone and demand an answer when you know the reaction is going to be to put you in cuffs. He wanted that moment. They gave him that moment. And I think it's great they gave him that moment because he deserved that moment and he deserves worse.
It's his viral moment, basically. That's what he got. And it might not have worked out for him. However, he is going to use that name, propel it, try to get a little more famous, and try to run for president in 2028. That's what's going to happen. These people are just trying their best. Look what's happening in New York City. Because everybody knows that Mayor Adams and Andrew Cuomo are the big names. Yes, Curtis Lee was a big name, but Republicans don't win in New York. The also rans like that Zohan Mandrani, whatever his name was, that was screaming and yelling at the Newark protest, and then trying to make names for himself, yelling at everybody and screeching around. That communist, he's positioning himself to try to win the Democrat primary for mayor. Then you have this other guy, Brad Lander, the comptroller, which we can talk about as well, who was actively helping illegals circumvent the law at immigration court.
Wasn't Brad Landers Homer Simpson's neighbor?
Oakley dokley.
Yes. Anyway, back to New York. Have you? I wonder if they could ever do the Escape from New York thing, where they just make Manhattan into a big prison. I think that'd be optimal.
Alvin Bragg is working on that very thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alvin Bragg is working on that very project right now.
That's a good idea.
Let's not speak too soon on that.
Yeah.
So
So, but anyway, back to the whole nonsense. The Democrats right now, with Padilla, with Brad Landers, it's all fake. This is all drama. This is all theater. Bad acting by bad politicians. Right? That's what it all is.
It is, but they watch people like Jasmine Crockett and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez become social media stars, if you will. And they figure, well, this is our constituency. This is the way we have to go. I mean, it's bad advice, probably, especially if you want to be taken seriously by the general electorate. But the idea is they're trying to become stars within their own parties. And they get the fame they so desire.
So I think the one thing they continue to miss, Chris, the Democrats, is they suck because they have no policy. Their policies suck. They lost the election because no one wants to live in a totalitarian Soviet-style state. Just saying. And even some of their own crossed over to vote for, Donald Trump. So just saying.
I'm fair here. A little bit about Lander. Watch him try to help people coming out of immigration court.
Let's watch this.
Trying to help illegal migrants circumvent the law, or illegal immigrants circumvent the law.
Let's see this.
Oh, look, I'm all for helping people out, but not helping people commit crimes.
Yeah.
This is 4 minutes long, so you can watch what he's doing. There he is. Basically, if this goes on for pretty long here, you can see a lot of this ended on Twitter. But the idea is this guy is trying to make a name for himself by saying, I'm the guy that's going to make sure illegals stay, because he's going the Zorhan, whatever his name is, route, the Zohan Mandrani. I consider him an also-ran, no matter how much of a star he's been getting, because that's fading already. But the thing about Brad Lander is he is making a big name for himself, but he's also questionable, by the way. The Daily News and other publications, but I got the Daily News report that the comptroller, Brad Lander, approved $500 million plus in contracts to nonprofits with ties to his wife's group. So he's basically misspending, or he's funneling New York City taxpayer money to people associated with his woman. or groups associated.
Why am I not surprised?
Exactly. These are the people you're voting for if you're Democrat.
So, again, there's two groups of voters I don't understand. The majority. Some have woken up. I don't understand Jewish voters who vote Democrat because right now, if it wasn't for President Trump, Israel would not be getting the support it's getting from us. They would not. They would not be all the stuff they've just done to Iran. However you feel about it, wouldn't have happened. The Biden folks would have done everything they can to stop it, slow it down, or otherwise derail it. So, secondly, is Democrat voters. I've known Democrats my entire life. You have too, Chris.
Yes.
And yet, somehow, acting like a child on the Senate floor, doing blatantly illegal things, like helping illegal aliens to escape. That I think that's a felony, as a matter of fact, because that's an obstruction of law enforcement operations.
Oh, I believe it was. But there are some very powerful people in New York State who will rush to his defense.
Oh my God! There's Vampira.
That's Vampira herself.
Do you want to know what I really think?
No.
You can't say that on here.
How dare they?
How dare they?
How dare you?
An elected official who's been going down there for weeks to escort people who are afraid to walk into a courthouse in the United States of America. Because despite them having legal status and following the rules and making their appointments,
lying,
that they don't know what's going to happen to them. So Brad Lander has stepped up to be a guiding help for them. And this is what happens to him. What the hell is happening to this country?
What the hell? What the hell?
Oh, yeah, she's getting tough now. Well, she might cast a spell on somebody right here. She's going to take their dog when she's on a bike ride, put her in her basket, and then just try to drive off. That's what she's going to do.
I just left Little Haiti.
Yeah.
People are being traumatized. Small businesses, people walking down the street. When I was there in August, the streets were mobbed. People were walking down the sidewalks. There were vendors everywhere. The traffic was crowded. Today, there was silence. People are living in fear. One woman just told me
Tony, here's a question for you. If you are a violent criminal who has come to this country illegally and continues to commit crimes, shouldn't you be living in fear that you're going to be arrested one of these days?
Yeah. And the answer to her question is you don't have to live in fear if you're here legally. Just saying. Well, if you're here legally and don't go be anti-Israeli or fascist or break the laws. If you don't break the laws, you're good to go.
Somebody really needs. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people live in fear because they created their own fear. If they're here illegally, and by the way, there's a program right now to self-deport, right, Chris? There's a hey, I give up. You can put your hands up and say, I want to go home, and they'll help you go home. Isn't that great?
That's something. It's not like they're saying, hey, put your hands up, turn yourself in, and we'll just bring you to the border, and that's it. No, they're actually giving people financial aid to fly home or train ride or do what they have to do to get back home. Hey, they also have a chance to take some of that money and try to come back legally. The door is not closed for people. The door is not closed for nonviolent illegal immigrants.
I don't think this point is made enough. It's like, I don't think this point is made enough. It's like if you say, hey, I accidentally crossed the border. I went out for coffee one day and ended up in San Diego. I was in Tijuana. I was looking for coffee and I ended up in San Diego. Oopsie daisy. I was in Tijuana looking for coffee and I ended up in Detroit. I don't know how it happened. It just happened. But so raise your hand and say, I made a mistake. I know I'm here illegally. I'm sorry. And by the way, if you say you're sorry, that's good enough. They'll let you go. It's like, okay, you get to go home and it doesn't count against you as an illegal entry because, illegal entry one time, shame on us. illegal entry second time, it's a felony. So it's a good deal, right, Chris? It's a good deal. And yet people like her are discouraging people from doing the right thing to dispel their fear, right?
Oh,
If you're
exactly.
living in fear, dispel your fear by saying, hey, I want to go home. And you're going to get help.
You know what? Somebody should like splash a pail of water on her. Then she'll be gone. There we go. But I do want to welcome our guest, Lord Conrad Black, who is here.
Lord Conrad Black, good morning, sir.
Welcome.
Good morning to you.
Oh, glad to have you here. And
thanks for having me.
And we're talking about we've been talking about the deep state and the globalists. Right now, we're discussing illegal immigration, but a lot of that's kind of tied into here, because you see these protests and these paid protesters and everything else. You have the likes of George Soros and the World Economic Forum and people like that helping fund these protesters, these disruptors, these rioters, if you will. And they also fund these non-government organizations that are looking at America or trying to circumvent freedoms around the world as well. And that's something you've been writing about in recent several years, as a matter of fact, by now. So let's talk about all of this.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, look, on that point, if you'll accept my expressing an opinion here,
please.
I think the administration has deported about 100,000 people since they were inaugurated in January, and I believe the number of illegal entries is over 20 million people. I don't think that method of self-surrender and so on is going to get you too far down the line. I would have thought, I'm just shooting from the hip as an outsider, but I mean, the American society, as I understand it, doesn't really have an objection to people who may have entered illegally but have obeyed the law, are not in the welfare rolls, and actually earnestly want to become Americans like traditional immigrants. But I thought you've got to root out the serious lawbreakers, and you have to make a special regime, I suppose, for those who made an authentic marriage with an American, not a fake marriage just to qualify them to stay. But you're not going to be able to throw out 20 million people. So aim at a target that you can make. But above all, the serious criminals have got to either be expelled or imprisoned.
So that's good. That's a good point. So part of this, I think, Conrad, is frustration with the past failed systems, and I think
yes, and
Donald,
and if I may say,
please.
A phrase that really, really got to bother me after a while, and was the phrase comprehensive immigration reform. What it meant was doing nothing. It was just a euphemism for doing absolutely nothing. And that bill that John McCain had to do with, or at least that he was part of that group putting together a so-called immigration reform. It was just going to make things worse. I mean, to me, more annoying than a deteriorating situation was people busily self-publicizing and claiming to be fixing it up, and they were just making it worse.
Well, so let me hit that point, because I think when you examine the emotion around the issue, and there's a lot of emotion, that bill was essentially to capture that emotion, I would argue. And the other thing they would do, Conrad, they would conflate border security with immigration reform. They're separate and distinct.
Yes.
And yet we heard this constantly. Oh, we need comprehensive immigration reform. It's like, no. We need to secure the border, and then consider how we're going to handle immigration if that's an issue. But the left purposely conflated both, I think, to create emotion, saying, oh, we're not kinder and gentler. And at the same time, to your point, ignoring the situation, just trying to make it look like there's action without action.
But
right?
wasn't it a really tell me if I'm oversimplifying, but wasn't there a really unholy meeting of the minds here between the Democrats who were prepared to throw out the constitutional requirement that voters be citizens and just bring all these grateful foreigners flooding across so they could be conveyed to the polls and elected, and turn it into a one-party state, in effect, with the Democrats always winning. and you know, you use harvested ballots as in the however many millions you needed, and on the other hand, mainly Republican employers wanting people that they could employ at you know, at knockdown wages, you know, but beneath the minimum wage. I mean,
We can say
didn't
near
we have
slave
just
wages at this point.
the nastiest type of Democratic Party cynic with the least creditable type of Republican employer working on this? I don't know. That's so it seemed to me. There's a nice pussycat.
Oh, we heard Karen Bass say what you said just a little while ago, and she's not the only one. Nancy Pelosi said that as well. You're hearing people say, "Who's going to clean our toilets? Who's going to mow our lawn?"
Yeah, who's going to roll the tennis courts in Bel Air? Yeah.
When I was younger, I was 12 years old. I was mowing lawns. All right, I was mowing or shoveling snow, delivering papers, things like that. Young people can do some of these jobs, but they're kind of shamed out of doing them in a lot of ways. We can pull that back, and I agree. There are illegals that come in here, they work hard and they do what they have to do, but they're still, and I understand even the Trump administration is saying, hey, we can probably try to find an option or path to citizenship. But there are a lot of them who come in here, they commit crimes, they go on welfare, they take resources. They have to be escorted out of here one way or another, and then we deal with the rest.
It's just
right.
turfing out 20 million people or whatever it is. It's
right.
Not like falling off a log. Though.
And it's about setting up numbers. It's about setting up a population to overrepresent certain blue cities and blue states when it comes to 2020. When it comes to the 2030 census.
I mean, to an outsider, first of all, it wasn't immigration at all. It was like the masses of Eurasia swarming into the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century. I mean, they had no interest in becoming Romans. They just wanted to move to a richer place. And there was no element of commitment like the people sailing under the Statue of Liberty and, you know, having the people change their names at Ellis Island because, you know, Polish names or Ukrainian names are too complicated. And it wasn't like that. They weren't coming to New World. They were just opportunists. I mean, it was just not conceivable to any non-American why the United States was putting up with this. And I think it's been reassuring that in shutting it down, reducing the number of illegal entries by 99.9% or whatever it is, there hasn't been really any protestation from authentic Americans. Instead, we've had people desperately trying to remain in the country that they arrived in illegally, burning the American flag.
Yeah,
and waving the flag of a country that doesn't want them back, in which they fled from. I mean, it's just none of it makes any sense.
Well, Conrad, let me ask you a question that may be uncomfortable, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Fire when ready, Gridley.
So this whole thing has disrupted Canadian-American relations, and I love Canadians. I was in combat with them. My son loves Toronto. Why? I have no idea. It's just another big city. Montreal has a personality. By the way, if Conrad, have you guys ever thought about exporting the French back to France and keeping Quebec for yourself?
It's been 300 years, you know, Tony. I think.
Bring back the Nordiques. The next
serious resistance on that one. They're the co-founders.
Anyway, my point. Well, my point being is that you guys so we used to have kind of like, dare I say, almost an open border because we could come and go.
Sure.
Because we don't have either population trying to go to the other country.
You know, going either way. You know, it was great.
Yeah. So when
I lived in Montreal, we'd go down to Plattsburgh or something, you know, for to have dinner, go to a movie or something, you know.
Yeah.
Or here in Toronto, you just go down to Niagara Falls. It's only an hour's drive.
Oh, I know. No, and by the way, my son and I, we actually we spent Thanksgiving in Canada one year just because we wanted to come up and see y'all. Yeah. But my point being is that I think the southwest border has badly affected our northern border because
and it's a problem in this country too because you know, many of these people who entered the United States illegally became frightened at the return of President Trump and crowded in here. By the way, on this point, I mean, I've known Donald Trump for 25 years. He's a friend of mine. We were business associates. I'm very pro-Trump, but I did, the last time I was speaking to him, which is about a month ago, I did say that I thought it was unfair to lump Canada in with Mexico. This is a fair,
very good.
trading
Thank you
country.
for telling him that. That's good. That's good.
No, I did. I mean, look,
That's good.
you've
I'm
got a
glad.
legitimate grievance with Mexico. Not only do they incentivize American manufacturers to pack up in the U.S. and subsidize the new factory in 5 miles inside the Mexican border, and bring parts from China, fabricate them with cheap Mexican labor, give them a holiday for income taxes, and then ship it back into the U.S. Under the trade agreement. The government of Mexico is severely implicated in this invasion of the United
absolutely.
States. I mean,
Absolutely.
we don't do anything like that.
Well,
Nothing.
I do want
absolutely nothing to do with anything like that.
Well, I do want to add one thing.
We're getting an invasion of guns here. We don't have a revolutionary tradition here. We didn't start the country by taking our muskets off the wall and going out and shooting the British. So, there isn't the same historic attitude to guns here. I mean, those who need them have them. There's no problem with that. I mean, a guy who needs one to defend a herd of sheep or something, or authentic gun collectors. I mean, they're perfectly entitled to have a gun. But my point is, we've had an invasion of guns here. We've had a rise in crime, and we actually have a bit of a problem with the border too. But we can work that out. I thought the president shouldn't have lumped us in. I mean, I have nothing against Mexico, but the U.S. has a real grievance.
Well, that's why I brought it up to you, because of all the people that would have an interest and knowledge of this is you, because I think we three feel the same about this. Chris is in New York, and if he ever has to escape, I'm sure he wants to escape to Canada, right, Chris?
Well, here's something about New York that's unique when it comes to the northern border. We have we have the Indian nation, the Mohawk Nation.
Right, I go through there to go to Canada. That's right.
Right. So what happens is there was a time, and I believe they still do it, but for a lot of times in the 90s, 2000s, they were smuggling illegals from across the Canadian border into Mohawk territory because customs really could not what's the word? Well, could not detain or could not inspect people going in and out of that section at that time. So because the Mohawks were considered a sovereign nation at that time too, or they were considered a sovereign nation, so they can kind of sneak people through. So we had
look, if you get into the history of
border.
this, Chris,
yeah,
Canada actually has quite a distinguished history. For example, in receiving fugitive slaves, we received 40,000 fugitive slaves in the 20 years prior to the Civil War, and then when the Confederates would try and set up here and hatch plots against the Union, we broke them all up. And the founder of this country, John A. Macdonald, got a message of thanks from President Lincoln, thanking him for doing this. I mean, we've been good neighbors all along. Yes, and the War of 1812, you had a perfectly legitimate grievance against the British, but you couldn't do anything to the British, so you invaded us. You had no grievance with us. So that was over 200 years ago.
You stopped a bunch of drunks from coming into the country and trying.
Those were the Fenians. Those were the Irish.
That was.
And so, Conrad, by the way, I'm concerned about political prisoners. Have you guys released Bob and Doug McKenzie from prison yet for being in Canada?
I was pleased when we made a triangular deal to get the two Canadians, the Chinese arrested. They're as tourists. They were just looking at the Forbidden City or something. They were rounded up and accused of espionage, in that Chinese manner. But then we made a three-corner deal with the Americans and the Chinese.
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was going to say, we did invite Lord Black here to talk about his recent article about.
Yes, please go ahead. I'm sorry I'm so distracting, but this is a great topic. Go ahead, Chris.
But we want to talk about this because German Chancellor, because well, first off, we can also segue that from immigration because German Chancellor Fred Merz and his civ border policy has also hurt the country as well.
People
That's
who
right.
remembered that guy.
Yes, I remembered that time. But Frederick,
that's good.
But I love the way he wears his pants, by the way. And by the way, the show should have been called "I Love Fred." He's the star.
High riser.
But Fred Merz has helped destroy his country, and he's trying to silence opposition, get rid of the AFD just because they disagree with the immigration policy. And now he's trying to work with President Trump by pushing some policy and this is where you focus in your article on the Brussels signal, that would leave Hamas in power with Gaza. And that's not exactly productive when it comes to the way the Middle East is today now, is it?
No, look. I must say, he wasn't quite as bad as our new prime minister here, Carney, who signed on with Macron, Starmer. But they all are saying, let's have a ceasefire. And not only, fine, I understand people say violence is a bad thing. Let's stop the violence, but it's a war. I mean, in October of 23, the Hamas committed an act of war and created a state of war. And you conduct the war until you have a comfort level that the original act that initiated the war is not going to be repeated. And what really aggravated me was when the three, Macron, Starmer, and our man Carney, signed this thing saying the only way to assure you get rid of Hamas is to have a ceasefire. I mean, what are they thinking? If you have a ceasefire, Hamas hangs in there, waits for things to settle down a bit, rearms, and does it all over again. I mean, we've got to stop this business of Israel's neighbors conducting terrorist acts that kill over 1,000 Jews at a time. And was the worst day of the death of Jews since the liberation of the camps in 1945. And I mean, Israel, this idea of proportionality is rubbish. And once you're in a war, you win the war. As General MacArthur said to the Congress, once the aggression of an enemy has forced war upon us, so there's no alternative but to apply every available means to bring it to the swiftest possible victorious conclusion at the minimum possible cost in our and allied lives. And that's what you do. And what are these people talking about? Same with the nonsense that the president, your president, to his credit, declined to participate in at the G7 meeting out in Alberta, Western Canada, earlier this week, when the rest of them all said, let's have a motion here calling upon Iran and Israel to de-escalate. What are they talking about? I mean, we've got to get rid of the Iranian nuclear weapons and the potential to deploy nuclear weapons, and you proceed until that is done. You don't suddenly de-escalate.
Yeah, so I'm with you, Conrad. I don't understand why more people don't see this practically like you do. For example, if you had, say, if we had, say, Alaska go rogue,
yep.
All of a sudden it started firing missiles into Alberta. I'm pretty sure the Canadian Army wouldn't sit back and just kind of let that happen. It's like, I don't know, let's de-escalate. Let's
turn
not
the
engage.
Other cheek. Yeah.
Turn the other cheek. We wouldn't do that. We would say, no, we're going to go in and we're going to stop this. Right?
Sure.
We would. I don't understand why there's a double standard. How we have the right of saying, no, sorry, you can't fire missiles into our people. We're going to stop you. But the Israelis have to take it. It's like, oh, no, you got to take that. You got to do all this winky dink, Teletubby type stuff. Look at that. Isn't that great Teletubby there, right there? Some of that's a British export right there, Conrad.
Yeah, I'm sure.
This is the best. This is the best the British have to offer, by the way. Just
that's that. They founded the Industrial Revolution, and now they're giving us the Teletubby.
That's right. But anyway, I digress.
Technically, I'm a dual citizen, and I'm a baron in Britain, as you can tell from my heavy English accent. But you're right.
So anyway, but my point is, why is there a double standard? Why does this double standard exist?
This is a complicated question, as you guys know. I mean, I get awfully tired of spurious explanations such as, I'm not an anti-Semite, I'm an anti-Zionist. I mean, and that's just nonsense, I mean, most of the time. Look, Israel has more legitimacy than any other country except the founders of the United Nations, the U.S., Britain, France, Russia, and China. And it was set up by the United Nations out of the League of Nations mandate as a Jewish state. That's what it's set up as. And so there it is. I mean, the other countries, we, Canada, joined it at the beginning. We're co-founder of the United Nations. And other countries since have been admitted as new countries, like India or something. But Israel was set up by the United Nations out of a mandate from the League of Nations with its express purpose to be a Jewish state. And these people are saying it cannot exist as a Jewish state. Well, legally and morally, Israel is right. It was established as a Jewish state by the world on the motion of the Soviet ambassador to the UN, seconded by the American ambassador. Stalin and Truman voting together for once. And I mean, we can't just say, well, you know, look, this, as I pointed out, by the way, in their lordship's house some years ago to a rather indifferent reception, this began with the British selling the same real estate twice. They promised the same territory to the Jews and the Muslims, and that's where the problem started. And so logically, in the end, you've got to divide the territory, but you can't ask Israel to live with people who will not tolerate the idea of Israel as a Jewish state. So, and when they commit acts of war, you've got to discourage them from committing more acts of war. And, you know, nobody talked to, look, a year after Pearl Harbor, nobody said to Roosevelt, well, you killed more Japanese than they killed at Pearl Harbor. You can stop now. A year after 9/11, nobody said to George W. Bush, all right, you killed more terrorists than the number of people who died in the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. You can stop now. I mean, a war is a war, and you fight it till you win it.
Well, you have to set an example. It's funny you wrote this about Chancellor Merz, and I want to bring that back because the Western European nations, specifically the UK, France, and Germany, have stood against Israel in a lot of this. They've stood up in the United Nations saying Israel is committing genocide. I
don't think those three countries have actually accused them of that.
Right, okay, all right, that's fair. I'm probably a little over exaggerating, but the UN members have. But yes, these three nations are saying Israel should ease up, ceasefire here and there. But they've also, with their immigration policies, their civ immigration policies, let in a large amount of a Muslim population. And for the last, I'd say 20 years, I'd say France was, and I'm thinking Germany and UK might be following suit here. They're afraid of this population at this point. These people can probably destroy towns, riot, cause some real problems there if these three nations publicly come out and take stances in favor of Israel. Thoughts on that? Am I far off here? I could be.
No, look, in fairness to the French, when General de Gaulle settled the Algerian War, he had to admit the Arabs from Algeria who had been friendly to France. Otherwise, the new regime would have killed them all. So he had to let in about 1 million Arabs then, and they have a high. That was mid-60s, so almost 60 years ago, and about 60 years ago. So they have a high birth rate. So but he had to do it, but my daughter is married to a Frenchman. I mean, a Frenchman, not a Quebecois.
My condolences.
No, he's a nice guy, and I'm actually rather pro-French. I think it's
I know I am too. I'm just kidding.
I like everybody.
My point is, his brother is in the integration department, it's called, of the education ministry in France, in quite a senior position. And the French are really showing us how to do this. They have an official at every service that takes place in a mosque. And if there's anything anti-American in that service, they shut the mosque and arrest the clergy. They will not issue a permit for meetings of larger than 20 people without being assured that there's nothing wrong with what's going on at the meeting. And they will not tolerate, for reasons of public security, people not being identifiable in public. I mean, in London, where I am half the time, you see these human tents moving around with just slits for their eyes. You wouldn't know who is underneath the clothing, whether it's a man or a woman or what it is. But the French won't put up with that.
No, they in Afghanistan, we knew that Al Qaeda and the Taliban were doing the hiding in the burqa thing, where guys would use it. So I'm with you. By the way, I guess, Conrad, I got to ask, you don't share our view then of the French being horse-eating socialists. I guess that's not your view. So that's okay.
Look,
that's okay.
You're a cat owner, and my theory is, and so am I. I'm a dog owner and a cat owner. But my theory is that to appreciate the French, you have to like cats, because that's what they are. It's a feline country. They're very intelligent. They're very elegant. And you know that song, I think, from Walt Disney, we're Siamese if you please, we're Siamese if you don't please. Well, that's the French.
Yeah. That's a great metaphor. I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal that from you, Conrad. That's great.
But they
I'm going to steal that. That's great.
But if these Muslims in France seriously challenge the ability of the French to enjoy their magnificent country with the food and the wine and everything, the beautiful French they speak, there's not going to be another word heard about liberty, equality, and fraternity. They won't put up with them. I mean, the French
Yeah.
will not get into this nonsense of the English about we have to exercise due process about people, making us late to get to a football game or go to the opera or something because they're, chanting anti-Jewish slogans. I mean, the French won't put up with that. And nor should
No, and
they.
and by the way, we joke about the French. I've been in combat with the French. I exercised with the 13th Regimente Dragones Parachutistes during Reforger in the 80s.
Yeah.
Strat troops. I worked with them as an intelligence officer. We worked with them in Mali. Just saying, they're badasses. Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti.
Yes.
We've worked with them there. So I'm just saying, as much as I kid the French, I've worked with their military.
Oh, yeah, it's a great
solid
national
military.
You have to give them that. They're one of the great contributors to civilization, but they certainly can be obnoxious at times. But I guess they would say that about us too.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a little give and take on the obnoxious front there from our side. So that makes a lot of sense.
That's right. So, well, anyway, but to finish the point of your article, what do you think we should do now? I don't advise President Trump like you do. I advise some of his staff, the cabinet folks, and people who follow the show know who I'm talking about. What can we do to better inform President Trump to affect positively the nonsense we're seeing here from those other leaders?
Look, I think he's on the right track, don't you? I mean, I think he's.
I think so.
doing
Well, I
what
think
needs
so.
to be done.
He's standing up to him.
Yeah.
By the way, Conrad, don't you think him abandoning them at G7 really upset them?
I didn't detect that. No, I mean,
Oh, really? Okay.
They understood. I think that, frankly, he's the only one of them that has any influence anyway. And by the way, you realize it wasn't just G7. You understand they had the Prime Minister of India, they had Zelensky from Ukraine, they had Lula da Silva from Brazil, they had a bunch of others too. But they understood that he was leaving because the United States is, closely involved with Israel and trying to get a satisfactory outcome from what's going on there. No, I think I think it was fine. From what I hear, it was fine. And I didn't support Carney in the election, but I think he handled the meeting well from what I saw.
Well, I wouldn't support Carney either.
His predecessor, Justin Trudeau, who I knew his father well, as the Prime Minister, Pierre Trudeau. And so I've known Justin since he was a little chap, and he's a very nice guy. But his qualification to lead this country was he was a pretty face with a famous name who survived childbirth. He couldn't lead Canada across the Bayview Bridge. It was a shambles.
I know. No, Conrad, I'm with you. Look, we went to Toronto just to try to watch his eyebrows fly south for the winter. We missed him, unfortunately.
All right. Can somebody over there convince the NHL to bring back the Quebec Nordiques?
I'm sorry, bring back what?
Bring back the Quebec Nordiques. That's what I want to see, because that was a great team. It was a great city.
Look, I went to university.
It is a great city.
It's a fabulous city. I have no, I'm from Quebec, so I speak the lingo. I don't have a problem with the French Canadians. They're fine. They're nice people.
I've been to Quebec City. I actually went up there for an event where I had to do a keynote, which was great. I love Quebec City. City.
It's a lovely city. It's better in July than February, but it's a lovely city.
No, I was there in July and it was hotter than hell. I was running out there and it was like hot. So anyway, well, we gotta go. Conrad, we'd love to have you back, especially regarding some of the upcoming issues relating to the post-Iran fracas. A lot of people. I don't know if you probably didn't catch it. A lot of people at overnight were freaking out. They were all, the end of the world's here.
Oh,
I think President Trump's going to be. Yeah, I think President Trump's much steadier than they give him credit for. They were all. Literally,
because it was such a mess after Biden. I mean, it was such a disaster, that administration, that this president had a complete menu of things to do, and he attacked them all at once. So his opponents say it's chaos. It isn't chaos. It's an ambitious president doing what he was elected to do.
Thank you.
It's all they have.
I agree.
It gets eyeballs and so.
But may I try just before I understand we all have to move on here? But can I just put a question to you guys?
Yes.
I think that the United States came closer than at any time since the Civil War to really going through the guardrails of constitutional democracy with this business of spurious impeachments and indictments. I mean, if in this country or in Britain, if the leader of the opposition was indicted in the middle, coming up to an election, the government would be out. The attorney general would be disbarred. I mean, it was like Mussolini killing Matteotti or something. I mean, you just can't run a democracy that way.
Well,
now, in fairness, 78 million Americans acquitted the president and told the Democrats to stuff their illegal perversion of the justice system. But to those of us who love America, it was a close call. It was scary. You almost got into things that democracies just don't do. I mean, we all do dumb things in all our countries, but you don't do things like that in a democracy.
Unfortunately, you can do things like that if you control the media pushes a narrative, and they try to influence enough people, and the politicians know they have them in their back pocket. Yes, they came very close, but look no further than Brazil, which did what the left
Brazil. It never worked in Brazil. I mean, whenever things get really bad, the great Brazilian army of 5,000 officers and 2,000 other ranks takes over the government. I mean, it's a wonderful country, but it's never been a success politically.
Right, but Luna's main opposition is in jail now on a technicality, pretty much at this point. This is what they tried to pull on Trump, and that social media was also behind both entities, because while that nobody was allowed to discuss the 2020 election for a couple of years on YouTube, whereas they get kicked off, the same rule applied for the the Brazilian election, that Luna won.
No, look, it's appalling. So, and even Israel, which is a democracy, I mean, they persecute the hell out. Look at the Bibi having to put up with this nonsense. I mean, the so-called bribe was a newspaper publishing a favorable article about him. I mean, is that a bribe?
Yeah, I know, it's insane. Well, no, this is where we have to bring sanity back to our politics. So we opened up talking about it. I'm an elected official. By the way, Conrad, I don't know if you knew this. Since we last spoke, I won my election for county commissioner. I'm now a politician, and I'm in trouble already too. People are upset with me.
Wasn't that the position Mr. Truman had before he went to the U.S. Senate? Wasn't
That's
he
right.
the county
Harry Truman and I are
Independence,
very close
Missouri,
friends.
and then he became
That's
a
right.
senator.
No wonder do we beat him.
There you go.
That's right.
Look, may I do this, Chris?
Yes.
This is the corniest thing. I'm about to do something I would have sworn I'd never do. I just want to hold up my book here because there were.
Yes, do that.
Here it is.
Please.
I mean, I'm
going to put you on close up here,
but it's the political and strategic hit. That's Cardinal Richelieu. There, Queen Elizabeth I. Then that's Genghis Khan, and that's Charlemagne there. But this is the first one here, where you've got Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great and Socrates and Moses. But the fact is, you can get the whole history of the world in 3 volumes.
And this is better than Howard Zinn's history.
Yeah, I got it right there. I'm gonna. Yes. I'm going to order it right now.
I have to do this as well. This is
look, I'd be delighted to come back with you anytime at all, Chris.
So, Conrad, we enjoy the conversation because you have practical common sense, much like we do, and the Patriots love you. I mean, we just want to see things fixed. Believe it or not, we're not extremists. We just want to have a government that addresses the people's needs.
You guys aren't extremists. You're middle of the road like I am.
Well, over here, that's extremist.
We're men of moderation. What are you talking about extremists? I mean,
well, thanks, Conrad.
We get to the point where it's an extreme position if you basically try not to break the law, respect your country, believe in the equality of races, that we got 2 sexes and everyone can work out for themselves their sexuality. I mean, these aren't extreme positions. Up until 10 years ago, they were what everybody believed.
Yeah, I know. So we need to get back to that. Anyway, we got to get going. Conrad, thank you for having Lord Conrad Black.
Yeah.
Thank you again, sir, for being here.
My title and the correct fare get me in the public transit system. It's good for restaurant reservations in London.
That's good. Well, they have to call me. They have to call me the honorable now, which I always roll my eyes.
Of course,
like,
really? I'm honorable Tony Shaffer.
Let's have a little respect here. Okay, thanks, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Patriots, thanks for being here. We'll see you again on Monday, right, Chris? That's our next time.
We shall. And don't forget, you got Tracy, Sean, George, and the crew tomorrow and Friday.
See you
You're not
all
talking
soon.
to me, right? You guys are talking to each other.